Fan of the show? Never miss an episode by subscribing to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or at our website, cinemapsychoshow.com. Be sure to like us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at Psycho Show. The minute you say you're like Star Wars, it's a kiss of death. Because you never will be like, true. There's nothing that's ever going to be like Star Wars.
You know, Star Wars is like King Arthur. It's a space fantasy movie. Like, this is a dystopian science fiction film. Like,
yeah.
He should have said it's going to be, to some degree, like Star Trek, not Star Wars.
Yeah.
But I think what he meant was, it's going to have spaceships. It's going to make a lot of money.
Yeah.
That's all. That is as deep as he went there.
Oh, goody, goody, here it comes.
Welcome to the Cinema Psycho Show.
You are interested in the unknown, the mysterious, the unexplainable. That is why you are here.
Oh, my God, don't stop now!
With your hosts, Brian, John, and Elaine.
Welcome to the Cinema Psycho Show, the madhouse for film freaks and film fans of all types. I'm your host, Brian Connington, joined by my fellow co-host and filmmaker, John Woolscroft.
John Travolta is either the worst actor or the greatest gift to acting ever. I don't know which one.
In this one, he might be both.
And he's the worst thing about this movie and the thing
greatest.
That makes it watchable. Yeah.
Yes, he is. This week, we are going to be talking about a movie that is 20 years old this year, and that is the 2000 John Travolta helmed, Scientology-made, kinda, maybe, sorta, Battlefield Earth.
Oh, and it's aged like a fine wine.
Oh, man, it is one of the worst films of all time. And we say that a lot, but I think what makes Battlefield Earth separate from other worst films of all time is the destruction that it led in its wake and how massive of a film it was. Like, it's not like The Room, you could say, okay, that's the worst film of all time. You know, Plan 9 from Outer Space, you can say that's the worst film of all time. This was a movie that originally was going to be funded and made by Fox and MGM. Okay? It didn't end up being that, but it almost did.
And the gold fillings they took out of L. Ron Hubbard's teeth, like when he died.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. This was going to be made by Fox and MGM. Didn't happen, but it still made it anyway. And we're going to get to some of the destruction that this movie led in its way, because it led a lot of destruction.
Well, this is punching up as compared to our normal punching up.
Oh, man.
You know, like when you look at like a Neil Breen movie or a Tommy Wiseau production, like it's understandable that these guys have no money. You know, they're self-financing. You know, the budget is like $20 and a cup of coffee. This movie wasn't $20. This is a $20 million production. So this is more in line with our Catwoman review. This is like blockbuster trite.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, this movie, gotta tell you, this was insane. It was an insane film. And it actually was a budget of $73 million. Now, I don't know if that's the inflated one or if that's the real one. And we're going to get to that because there's a lot of drama behind this film, a lot of shenanigans that got people in jail and bankrupt. So yeah, there's a lot to hold in this movie. So
I think at least 60 million of that went to paying Forrest Whitaker's dignity.
Well, what I find hilarious about this film is that you can see just the utter lack of joy in every performance with the exception of John Travolta. John Travolta is the only person who is having fun with this film. Everybody else is just like, oh God, why am I in this? I even think Kelly Preston is like, oh God, what is John doing? Now, Kelly Preston is John Travolta's wife, but I really think that she's like, what the fuck is my husband doing? But yeah, this movie, I saw this movie, just to give you a little backstory on it. I saw this movie when it came out. It went direct to HBO. Like after it played like what a weekend.
Yeah, and like 2 weeks in theaters, and
2 weeks in theaters.
Oh no, get this out of here!
Yeah, I remember that it was on HBO, and I think that was because of the fact that I believe Warner Brothers did have, Warner Brothers was the distributor of this film for U.S. and Canada. So it ended up, because it was a Warner Brothers movie, it ended up on HBO because HBO is owned by Warner Brothers. And I at the time, I didn't get some of the issues that people have with it. I just saw it as like, oh, because in 2000, I was like 15 years old. So, for me, I was like, oh, look at that. It's a space movie. It's aliens and shit. That's cool. But later on, you're just like, wait a minute. There's some things here that don't make any sense. Like the whole thing. And, seeing it when you're 15 and seeing it when you're 34,
Brian,
very
don't be
different.
picky. Just the whole thing.
The whole
God,
thing. Yeah, the whole thing. The whole fucking thing. I mean, when I say the whole thing, I mean names of characters, character personalities, plot points, visual effects, editing and camera angles, the whole fucking thing. This movie is an abomination, and in the strongest words, an abomination. But John, how about you? When did you first discover this film? And don't say, while I was preparing for the episode. I know it was before then.
Battlefield. So a friend of mine is, he's very much into any science fiction he can get his hands on in terms of, books. And way back in the day, we were naive to what real L. Ron Hubbard was all about. You know, like in my small town, we didn't know what Scientology was. We didn't know the history of this pedophile boat owner. That was L. Ron Hubbard, in my opinion.
Yes, in your opinion. I really don't want the Church of Scientology suing us.
Yeah, we got to be really careful with this one.
Any money.
But he had the book, and his brother, who is also a friend of mine, he was watching it in the other room while we were like playing video games or whatever, and he asked where are they in the movie, and he's like, oh, they're mining for gold, and he's like, wait, didn't you just start that movie an hour ago? And he's like, yeah, and he's like, wait, the book is like 2,000 pages. It's something insane. It's like the King James Bible.
Yeah.
Then they got that far in an hour, and I was like, and he's like, yeah, and he's like, and it's like really bad. And he's like, well, the book isn't great. It's not horrible. He's like, but man, this movie's really bad. So I was like, well, I got to know about this now. So I ended up renting it, from either Knight's Video Store or Papa Ops in Edinburgh. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh dear God. They either didn't take anything from the book, or no, the book is fucking terrible, because this is the worst goddamn thing I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
There's a lot of times you can say like, oh, what's bad about the movie? Like everything, but people want something that you can say, here's the reason that it's really bad. And this movie is everything, but like, goddamn, if John Travolta isn't the worst actor I've ever seen in my life in this movie, and this is his baby, this is his dream project, you think he would have done better? Like, I would say, like, okay, sure, John, everything's bad in the movie, but what can you put your finger on that's the worst thing? I would say John Travolta. He's so bad. He's Tommy Wiseau meets Poison Ivy. He's unbelievable. Yeah,
honestly, like, what this movie for me gives me is a preview, if you will, of John Travolta now, because John Travolta now, and I didn't think about this until after I was watching it, and I was like, wait a minute, this is a portal into the future, because John Travolta now, we've mentioned this before, he's made movies like Gotti, okay, and not the good Gotti. I'm talking about bad Gotti.
Is this worse? Is this better or worse than his Gotti performance?
Oh, I mean, both are terrible. And both are using special effects makeup. So that goes to tell you something.
Would you like to eat your own poop or the cat's poop? It's like, no, I don't know, man.
I don't know. But like all the movies that he's making now, which are all direct on Amazon, or they're direct on, not on Netflix. It's mostly Amazon. And they're all terrible. Like, every one of them is terrible. I saw one that he had a terrible wig on, and he seems to always have terrible wigs on. In this movie, he's got a terrible cone head on. So
which is weird because he has, I think, I mean, it might be
No, he
hair
doesn't.
plugs, but he has a decent head of
He
hair.
has
I don't
hair
know
plugs.
Why? Yeah. Why he has to wear wigs all the time.
Well, I don't know, because, he also, has shaved his head now. So now he's bald. He did that terrible.
God, that's right. That's
Yeah.
why he's wearing wigs. He shaved his goddamn
Yeah,
head.
yeah,
That
because
was
his buddy Pitbull said, "Yeah, you gotta go blonde. You gotta go bald." No joke. His buddy Pitbull did say that.
I want to go to that cocktail party.
Yeah. So, for me, this is kind of like a window into the future, because now we see it and we're like, oh yeah, well, John Travolta's, he's always been a punchline, and he hasn't, though. That's the thing. When this movie came out, this was right at the height of his popularity.
Pulp Fiction,
he had made
Face Off.
Yeah.
He was.
Yeah.
It's kind of a big deal.
So he was a big deal. Those are movies that made a lot of money and made him very popular. That was his renaissance. Because, in the 80s, he had a lot of bad movies. Look Who's Talking, might be the only good one out of that period. He got a sequel out of it. But, for the most part, he was
sequels.
Yeah,
Remember, there's a talking dog one.
Oh, yeah, the Danny DeVito talking dog one. I forgot about that one. But the point is, it's like, that period of time, he lost a lot of his popularity. And it wasn't until Quentin Tarantino gave him Pulp Fiction that he kind of got it back. And what's interesting is just how you go from that to this to where we're at now over the course of just like 20 years. Like, it's really insane. And this movie, for me, though, it's a masterclass in everything that's wrong. Everything that's wrong that you could do in a movie.
Yeah.
I think the only thing you don't have in it is like some Ed Wood inconsistency in whether it's nighttime or daytime. That might be the only thing that's not in this movie that would be a bad film.
There's nothing glaring like the boom mic is like hitting the actor in the head.
I don't think you could even see that because every shot is in Dutch angle.
So tinted, and Dutch angled.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's more. I don't want to say subtle when for anything when it comes to this movie, but you look at the color grading, which for audiences that don't know exactly what that means, like so if a scene's sad, sometimes they'll make the color of the whole scene look blue or whatever, what have you. Like everything is either the color of urine or the color of blue sadness.
No, not quite. It's either the color of urine or the color of urine if someone's been kicked in the dick.
Yeah.
Or it's blue sadness. Yes. Go ahead, man.
Oh, sorry. And the camera work is like apparently like it's like when you're 12 and you have your parents' home video camera and you go, if I tilt the camera just a little like this, look how neat that looks, and your first whoa, because everything is a Dutch angle, and
the funny thing is like that's like film school 101 shit. Like that's what gets me about this, because when you look into how this movie got made, who was actually on the film, producing it, and you're just like, wait a minute, you had actual professionals? Like, they're real professionals. The director of this movie is a protege of George fucking Lucas. Okay?
Oh, yeah, I looked him up. I'm like, oh, is this hack fraud?
No, he's not hack fraud.
Oh, my God. Yeah, he's had quite the career.
And honestly, once you realize that, and you're just like, wait a minute, I'm seeing some parallels here. But the point is like, this was made by actual professionals in the industry, people who are in unions, people who are actually working still in the film industry. And that is what blows my mind. This is a big budget B film. Like, this is a big budget B film. And honestly, it just, once you realize all of that, once you realize all the behind the scenes shit, it really just kind of like illuminates your mind even more. Almost like when you're strapped into a learning machine that apparently the villains in this movie had failed to actually use. Like, and I will get to that. This has by far, I would say, the worst screen villains I've ever seen. The only ones that I think can even hold a candle to them would be the aliens from Plan 9 from Outer Space. That's the only ones. The only ones.
At least they had the dignity to not deliver some of these lines
Yeah,
that we hear
yeah.
in this movie.
So I do want to dive into a little bit of the backstory behind this because it's extremely interesting. So as I alluded to before, this movie, it came out as, it was a book by L. Ron Hubbard, the founder of Scientology. And we're gonna say some things about Scientology here. We want to express this. We're only bringing up opinions stuff that have actually been said by others, like that have been in the church, and these are our opinions. Okay, you can say we don't like our opinions, that's fine, but I'm referencing stuff that's already been put out there. Okay, and
AKA,
that's more
sue us,
it's more for
Church of
you, John.
Scientology.
It's more for you, John. Okay, you gotta hold back a little bit here. Okay, so
The opinions of John Wills got like this.
So L. Ron Hubbard makes this book, sends a personalized copy to John Travolta, who's been in the Church of Scientology since the 70s. Okay. And John Travolta in the 80s is like, hey, this would be a good movie, right? Problem is, as we mentioned, his popularity in the 80s was tanking. He made a bunch of bad movies. He really couldn't just take this book by, L. Ron Hubbard, who, believe it or not, and this is a crazy concept here, in Hollywood, Scientology, despite what you're told in the media, is still frowned upon.
Yeah, they have a couple of big
frowned
names,
upon.
and they do everything they can to bring attention to it, but that doesn't mean that people respect it.
It's still people, and it's not necessarily the famous actors that you see in the church. It is more or less the business people, so the people who are in the studios. Because they're looking at it from the standpoint of, okay, what is the audience going to think if I make a movie that is tied to that? And that's kind of why this movie kind of stuck in development hell for so long, is partially that. So Travolta, not having the star power in the 80s, holds on it. And once Pulp Fiction comes out and Face Off, he starts to realize that he's got a little bit of star power that he can use to push this passion project. It's something that he's wanted to do since the 80s. So he goes to every studio, and they all say no, like every one of them.
I mean, partly that it too is what you said earlier. Like, nobody wants that Scientology stink on them.
Yeah.
It's just and they're gonna cover their tracks no matter how they can. Like let's just not end up doing something that's gonna get us unwanted attention. Yeah.
Well, what's interesting is just he lobbied industry insiders. Okay, he lobbied all the heads of studios with this movie, and some of the things that happened to get that lobbying were kind of creepy, if you want to say that. So I'll give you one instance. So the former head of 20th Century Fox, his name was Bill Mechanic. He quoted when talking about Battlefield Earth that John Travolta wanted him to make it, and he had Scientologists follow him. And they would come up to him and say, "We're really excited about Battlefield Earth." So they're stalking.
They did it so subtly too.
They're stalking him. Okay, this is documented fact. I'm not making this up. They were stalking him to make the film.
He's just eating a bowl of soup. Some guy goes, "Whoops! Oh, I'm sorry, I dropped Dianetics into your tomato soup. Hey, while I'm here."
and what's interesting is Bill said to Travolta, "Do you think in any way, shape, or form that weirding me out is going to make me want to make this movie?"
What are you talking about? Oh my God, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So ultimately, what ends up happening is he lands a deal, and a lot of this I'm getting from Wikipedia. I'm also getting it from a bunch of different sources. So I will link them. But J.D. Shapiro was the writer on this, and he was a reluctant writer. Have you seen his interview with Film Courage, John?
I've heard I've seen transcripts of some of his interviews where he did not want to write this, and then whatever came on screen was not anything that.
It's amazing. So I was watching his interview with Film Courage, and he mentioned how at that time he had made a bunch of movies that he hadn't even made the movies. He had written scripts that were greenlit by studios, and then usually the studio head would be replaced, and they'd go and look at those greenlit scripts and just not make them. And he had this happen so often that he thought he was the most unluckiest screenwriter in history. Truth be told, he's not. That's just the way that the industry works. But what's funny about it is that he was approached by John Travolta. He was approached by MGM because at the time, MGM and Fox 2000 were going to make this movie. Okay? And his agent says, don't make it. Everybody told him, don't make the movie for obvious reasons. Okay? He decided to make the movie. And he actually said that it was a turning point in his life where he no longer was thinking about, I got to make the next movie. I got to make the next movie. I got to make the next movie. He actually was starting to think about, okay, I have to put my own integrity first. So he looks at Battlefield Earth as kind of like a watershed moment for him in that it can never get as bad as this. But yeah,
somewhere. Yeah.
But yeah, he had, written a script and sent it off. And ultimately what ended up happening was MGM and Fox 2000 dropped the movie. So it was left without a studio. So what do you do when you're left without a studio? Well, you look for money anywhere. And that's where they found it, is anywhere. So do you want to jump in at this point, or do you want me to kind of keep rolling on this?
No, by all means.
Okay. Because if you've got some info on this, let me know. But anyway, looking for money anywhere led them to Franchise Pictures. And you may be like, well, who the hell is Franchise Pictures?
Yeah, if that was your first reaction, so was everyone else.
Yeah, because I watched it when I was watching this. I'm like, Franchise Pictures. I've never heard of them. There must be some tiny studio, and they aren't a studio. They are just money men. And when I mean money men, I mean one man. Eli Samhara.
Yeah, and I
mean,
a lot of like the people you see at the beginning of the movie when there's like 15, logos before the movie starts. Like most of those people are just wallets. There's no. It's not like a Hollywood backlot. There's only like 5 actual places where movies are made, like Warner Brothers, Paramount, and all that. They're just guys who have their small offices and they have a lot of money to play around with and gamble with. That's really all they are.
Usually they're venture capitalists, like Steve Mnuchin, who is the Treasury Secretary and also someone who financed a lot of movies too. But Eli Samhara, and I'm probably pronouncing his name wrong, but anyway, he's a piece of shit, so it doesn't matter. He was a former dry cleaning mogul turned nightclub owner.
This sounds exactly right.
Yeah. That's like, if you're gonna think of sleazy money man to make terrible movie, why not a former dry cleaning mogul who turns into a nightclub owner? The only thing you can have in there is like he's also a butcher on the side. So you could be
I don't know.
You don't got any money? I'm fine. I'll put you in my locker or something like that.
I don't know what this man looks like, but I imagine he looks like the pimp from Velocipaster. Timmy Mermaid or whatever.
Frankie Mermaid, man.
Frankie Mermaid. That's it.
Come on. Star of the movie. But Franchise Pictures was basically set up to specifically rescue pet projects by movie stars. Like Samhara viewed it as, okay, sometimes these studios don't want to work on these big pet projects, and I can swoop in and basically sell it for less and, make money on the back end. So the problem is that Franchise Pictures and Eli Samhara kind of did questionable accounting for these movies.
Shady AF. They misled the investors.
Well, that's the thing. They misled the investors because what they did with this movie is they had co-investors on it. And that's a common thing. That's why you see, as you mentioned, John, that's why you see a lot of logos that pop up at the beginning of a film. So, it was set up with Morgan Creek. It was distributed by Warner Brothers domestically. And then it was distributed with, I believe, I forget the name of it. I think it was IG Entertainment. But so IG Entertainment, I'm gonna call it that for right now. But IG Entertainment goes ahead and they're putting up a good chunk of the money to get this movie made. And Samhara said that this movie was going to cost somewhere around the realm of like $100 million. Make it very expensive. Okay.
Sounds great, doesn't it? Like,
it sounds great.
It's going to be
so,
amazing.
so if you're an investor and you're putting up that amount of money, you're expecting that the movie is going to be worth that amount of money. And long story short, it wasn't. The movie, truthfully, had a budget of close to like $40 million. So, and this, what's interesting about Battlefield Earth is this was the movie that toppled Franchise Pictures because they eventually were discovered and sued. And they were his whole thing was bankrupt and it was gone.
I would love to think that they went and saw this movie and with the cheap special effects and like the sets, that are computer generated because they couldn't build sets.
It was Entertainment AG, not IT AG Entertainment. But
I just want to believe that they went and saw like, there's no way this cost $100,000. We need to look at the books. Yeah.
What was great about this though was like Samhara's belief that this movie was going to make him not a laughingstock. Like here's a quote from directly, okay?
Yeah.
And I'm finding this from Wikipedia. I don't care. Samhara said, "Battlefield Earth is going to make people in Hollywood take notice of Ellie Samhara. I'm not going to be the laughingstock anymore." Well, buddy, you still are, and you're bankrupt too.
That poor man.
That poor man.
Because you could tell he clearly had like a complex,
Well, one, if you're referring to yourself in the third person, that right there, that's like super villain level, almost as bad as John Travolta in this movie. So that's a little bit about the backstory. Let's actually dive into the meat and potatoes of this stink bomb, and talk about what do you want to start with? Do you want to start with the actors in this, or do you want to start with actually the plot?
We can start with the actors, and just like. Because like the plot, oh my God,
it's hard.
You start to realize why this guy decided to start a fake religion because like his science fiction writing was that of a fifth grader. It's childish. He's just such a bad writer. But yeah, so we have Travolta, who's God's gift to humanity. In this.
Not really. I mean, he's killed all of humanity, or at least I don't think it's him. I think like he's like the third or fourth generation that's inhabited Earth, and he's just like, we don't study history. Man animals eat rats.
Man animal. Yeah. Because he's this is the year 3000. But didn't I say, like, isn't it implied that, like, the war happened in the year 2000?
Yes.
So we're 20 years late for that.
Yeah.
Although this year, that sounds about right. That a bunch
I was going to say
albino Rastafarians would come down and just murder all of us.
It was funny. A friend of mine, he posted a meme on Facebook, and it was like, coming in July, Predators. Yeah. I'm like, yeah, that would be the case. And I'm like, then the next month you get Aliens, and you get Aliens versus Predators. Then the Empire shows up with a bunch of Death Stars. And then, you get Zombie Apocalypse in November. And then maybe December, that's when you finally get, nuclear winter. To just put aside
evil
from
Christmas
misery.
trees.
Evil Christmas trees. Yeah, that would be the thing.
That's all right. No, we'll be fine. Wait, what month is it? December? Oh, God damn it.
Shit.
But yeah, Travolta, he's Turl. Yeah.
Turl. Yeah, Turl.
Yeah, I was talking to Laine last night about this because I was doing my John Travolta impressions, and she's actually never seen this. And
did she watch this with you?
No,
Oh.
she would not give me the time of day when it came to Battlefield Earth. She's like, if I don't have to do this episode, I'm not watching that movie.
Oh, come on.
But I'm just sitting there on the couch, and I'm like, when you were learning to spell your name, I was conquering galaxies. And she's like, oh, who does that in the movie? I'm like, John Travolta.
John
And she's like,
Travolta.
oh, no.
Yeah.
I think the director, like, he came in, Travolta did, and he said, okay, here's how I'm doing the role. And he went, oh, crap. There's no fixing this. I just have to live with it.
I don't know. I put a lot of blame on him, too. But yeah, Travolta, he plays the worst supervillain I've ever seen. I'm not even going to talk about the makeup because the makeup is not the worst part of this. The makeup's like passable.
It's bizarre. Okay? I mean, it's like you want it to stand out. You don't want it to look like any other movie, so you do weird things like strands of hair everywhere,
and that does not bother me as much. Truthfully, I've seen much worse. It's not that bad. I get it. You want them to be aliens, okay? I also would say if this was done, say 5 years after, 5 years later, they might be just CGI characters because that's what was happening back then. So I'll give them props for actually doing makeup. Okay. What I have a problem with is the way he acted. And I said this to you when we were talking before we recorded. I said, this is quite literally if John Travolta was doing an impression of Uma Thurman as Poison Ivy in Batman and Robin. And honestly, if you look at the two, it's almost the same. Like it literally is the same camp.
Yeah, and if I could live in an alternate universe where they swapped roles and Travolta came out in his very loose body in a skin tight Poison Ivy outfit, I would be so happy. But yeah,
as I told Lady Freeze when I pulled her plug, this was a one-woman show.
I pulled her plug. Rat brain.
Rat brain.
But I don't think Travolta is supposed to be camping it up. I think he's taking this. He said, and I quote, "This is going to be the Schindler's List of science fiction movies."
Wrong.
Which I don't even know what that means.
Wrong. One, Schindler's List and science fiction do not belong in the same sentence.
Yeah.
Ever. That's extremely offensive.
Schindler's List is a very good movie, but I don't think that's a comparison you ever want to make. Like,
no.
Oh, hey, what's this pie going to be like? This is going to be the Schindler's List of blueberry pie. It's like, oh, that was a weird thing to say.
That's like saying, oh, yeah, this is going to be the blue velvet of cakes. So it's going to be Dennis Hopper?
Yeah.
Saying he wants to fuck his mom?
He's going to have a mouth.
Snorting drugs? Is that what he's doing? Okay, how is that a cake? I don't know. Yeah.
I don't think Travolta was supposed to be hamming it up. I think he took this deathly serious.
Yeah, he did.
He's just like a bad actor. And I'll say this about
go ahead. That's because I was going to say this is why I say this is a future look at him, because you look at him now and you're like, oh yeah, of course he's terrible.
Yeah. But the thing is, like, Travolta was never like a great actor. Like, he had some performances, that are very memorable and very good. Like, Look Who's Talking, Pulp Fiction. Like, he was never fantastic, but like, he's sufficient as an actor. Like, there's almost no explanation on where the fuck this performance came from. If this is like a one-time actor and got his big break and then just fell out of Hollywood because like he conned everybody, George Lazenby style, or like, I don't know, was a B-list, actor from the outset, like it would be understandable. Like, but like Travolta is capable of much better. But I mean, of course, anybody is. But I don't know where he drew this inspiration from.
I think it's a couple things, and this is just kind of from outside looking in. One, Travolta was a producer on this film. Okay, so he was partially the money man. He was the one
nothing
who brought
more dangerous
this.
than when the lead actor is also the producer.
Yes. So he was the money man. He was also the one who was behind everything about this film. He's been married to this film for so long. So let's say you're the director and you are, and I'm going to get to this. You're Roger Christian, okay? You're George Lucas's protege. You've worked on Star Wars, and you've never really been tested, okay? So if you've never really been tested and you're having to direct John Travolta, who I'm assuming has a massive personality to begin with, he had the gall to bring this, stink bomb to reality, and you're forced to direct him. Are you really going to have control over your set and over your actor when it comes to personality? I don't think you are. I don't think you are. And that's why I think that John Travolta can honestly shine when he has a good director. He shined when, he had John Woo direct him, in Face Off and also with Quentin Tarantino in Pulp Fiction. So I think that's what John Travolta always needs, is a strong director who can reel him in and actually get him to do the performance that he wants. But if you got someone who is untested and they're just like, yeah, you brought them, you're paying my paycheck, so yeah, you do whatever the hell you want with Terrell. That's fine. I'll work on Barry Pepper. You go do you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It is. And Barry motherfucking Pepper. When I was rewatching this,
I feel
the other
so
day,
bad for him.
I was like, this guy looks so familiar, but I can't.
He was in Saving Private Ryan.
Yeah, and like, yes, that's his real. Is that his real name?
That's his real name is Barry Pepper. Yeah.
But yeah, I was just like generic white action hero guy. You know?
Johnny Goodboy. That's his name.
Yeah, Brian's not being an asshole.
I'm not being an asshole.
That's his literal name in the movie.
In the
Johnny
name,
Goodboy.
it's Johnny Goodboy Tyler. They never really talk about the Tyler part, but it's Johnny Goodboy.
And Good Boy sounds like when you're at the vet and they want like a full name for your dog, and it's like, what's your dog's name? Muffy. What's his last name? Muffy Good Boy. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. So he plays generic hero number one. And I say generic hero number one because he doesn't do much. You know, he takes advantage. Well, he takes advantage of John Travolta's ridiculous personality, which, okay, I get that. But he's not very bright. Okay? He really isn't.
Thankfully, Travolta in the movie does literally everything to self-sabotage himself.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Completely. Like, I'm pretty sure that it is in the supervillain handbook that you do not give information to your adversary.
Yeah, first off, here, go to this library and spend hours researching like American history, and then I'm going to give you all of our creatures' history, so you can go mine gold. Like what? Wait, what?
Not
the
even
fuck?
just that. Just the fact that you're strapping in somebody to a learning machine. The only way that you have been able to stay in power for as long as you have is by using the fact that you have superior intellect over, descendants of the people that you conquered 1,000 years ago. So those descendants don't have the advantage of modern technology. They don't have the advantage of education. They're honestly dumb. Okay? Why would you give someone a tool to destroy that balance? Okay? And I'm not going to say that Johnny Goodboy is a it's so horrible.
So stupid.
I'm not going to say that Johnny Goodboy is the smartest hero on the planet, because he's not. Because I'm going to tell you something right now. At the end of this movie, when he's like, oh yeah, they're not going to send gas drones here to destroy us when they see your greed. It's like, no. You destroyed their home planet. They don't give a shit. They're going to blow you up either way. And you got nothing but some Harrier jets. Okay? So either way, it's not going to work out well. But the point I'm trying to get across is just that Terrell is the worst villain of all time. He literally gives Johnny Goodboy a knife to stab him with.
It would be like in the Matrix, like Morpheus connected Neo to the Matrix so that he could like learn kung fu and everything that he needs to know about computers and all that. Remember when Agent Smith did that? Like, Mr. Anderson, I'm going to give you all the knowledge you need to kick my ass.
Yeah. It almost be, look, if Mr. Anderson said, here, you're the one. Here's how you can be the one. Now I'm going to battle you.
Yeah. Thanks, dude.
Yeah. And here, it's funny you bring that up, because the people who've reviewed this film in the past, they've said that there are a lot of parallels between this movie and The Matrix, and they're painful ones. Like the reliance on super slow-mo that doesn't work. Like there's so many shots in this film where they're doing slow-mo. Like there's a scene where Johnny Goodboy is crashing through, I think at least 5 panes of glass, and it's all done in super slow-mo. And it's like, you watched The Matrix, didn't you? You saw how they did slow-mo in that movie, and you're like, oh, we got to do that now.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's bad.
What is the name of Zack Snyder? Like,
yes.
I think on Zack Snyder's tombstone it will say slow motion equals drama. You know, so.
But they did it in this movie too, and it's just done badly. because it didn't shoot it for the purpose of being in slow-mo. They shot it regular speed, 24 frames, and slowed that down. It never looks good.
There's an old school thing that get it if you can get it in the camera, get it in the camera. Like don't rely on post-production to do it.
Yeah.
Because you're right. It was clearly like a lark. They're like, well, and this movie's kind of silly, so we need to make it more like epic. So we'll just slow down some of this footage in post production. Didn't work.
So after Johnny Goodboy, you've got Forrest Whitaker in the most
Academy
painful
Award
role.
winner, Forrest Whitaker.
Yeah. For what was it? Last King of Scotland.
Yeah.
Yeah. And before he got there, he was doing this movie, and he must have just been like, man. Wish I was back on Species. Because at least in there, it wasn't a nightmare like this. But he's playing Kerr, and Kerr is kind of like the second in command. He's like Terrell's number 2. And you just get that the entire Cyclo hierarchy is entirely based on stereotypes of corporate America. Like, no joke. It's 100%. Like, it's almost like if you took the main characters in Wall Street, okay? Movie Wall Street, and you made them aliens and said, okay, you're the villains now. What are you going to do?
Pretty much, yeah. I think at one point I literally saw Travolta twirling his mustache. Like, it wasn't even like a metaphor.
Not his
anymore.
eyebrow tendrils?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this movie has the subtlety of like a lead brick, like in terms of what it's trying to say. And yeah, like I felt that like Kerr and Turl were like Abbott and Costello.
Yeah, but
like,
Kerr wants Terrell's job as the head of security on Earth.
Like, I thought they should have the Bulk and Skull music from the Power Rangers like first season, whenever they were on screen together.
Yeah, but Kerr basically is just kind of the second in command. He kind of hangs out there as just kind of like someone for Turl to laugh at. And when I mean laugh, I mean like quite literally every scene in this movie ends with a laughter, like a maniacal laughter thing.
That's why I'm a senior officer.
I'm a senior officer. You're going to stay here for another 50 cycles. Like, I'm not joking when I say that. Literally every scene ends with maniacal laughter. Or
I would
wipes.
have been happier if it was, instead of cycles, it was just space years. Like, I wish they just put space in front of everything.
Oh, well, that's something that's a common thing in sci-fi film. They can't, because time for us is different than time for everybody else, so they can't just say years, because years is something we've created. So, like, to make it sound spacier, they say cycles, because cycles around the sun. That's what they do there.
But meanwhile, they have ships with steering wheels and bars and things like, other things that humans have.
Yeah, I never got why there was a space bar, other than the fact that, and I brought this up, and I think it's a good time to bring this up now. The director of this is someone who is familiar with Star Wars because he worked on a number of Star Wars films. So when I realized that, I'm like, oh shit, the cantina scene, it's there. That's why there's bar there.
Yep.
The wipes. So many fucking wipes in this movie. It's because of Star Wars. There's so many things in this that you can tie directly to Star Wars because of the director being someone who's associated with Roger Christian, George Lucas's protege, which I'm sorry for you, buddy. Because you realize he was probably the guy getting coffee for Lucas.
Here's your coffee, Mr. Lucas. Call throws it in his face.
But even like the woods people who pop out towards like the middle end of this movie, like that ended up becoming like Johnny Goodboy's army. I'm not joking when I say this. Those are the Ewoks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's more than fair.
More than fair. It's a fucking Ewoks. And you know what? This guy worked on Return of the Jedi.
Oh.
Oh God. Yeah.
So he went to his well. He knew what he liked.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Travolta called this like, oh, this is gonna be like Star Wars. Again, I've said this before. We said this with Starship Troopers. The minute you say you're like Star Wars, it's a kiss of death. Because you never will be like. True. There's nothing is ever going to be like Star Wars.
Star Wars is like King Arthur. It's a space fantasy movie like this is a dystopian science fiction film. Like,
Yeah.
he should have said it's going to be to some degree like Star Trek, not Star Wars.
Yeah.
But I think what he meant was it's going to be really, it's going to have spaceships. It's going to make a lot of money.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
that's all. That is as deep as he went there.
After that, in terms of characters, you really get like the bottom of the barrel
Yeah, just
ones
generic.
that aren't even worth really
generic
mentioning.
people.
But I'll mention a couple of them. Kim Coates, who you might not know who he is, but he's actually an actor who's been in a lot of things. I remember seeing him in a bunch of stuff. And he's a character actor, but he plays, I've heard him being seen referenced as Monkey Man or just Beast Person. He plays Carlo, who is like the second important character to Johnny Goodboy. He does this whole like howler monkey barking thing that just kind of comes and goes. Like, you get that he's someone who's like, he's lived on the land. But then again, every man who's in this movie has lived on the land. But for some reason, he just talks normally and then just, for no reason, just starts going, over and over again.
Well, I think that this movie, and they did it so poorly, like everything else, it's hinted that, like, Travolta's like race of people have their own dialect, and I think the humans are supposed to have like a new type of dialect, and then they just kind of like slowly merge that into English so they don't have to have subtitles. You know, they didn't want they didn't want people to have to read this whole movie, so like you can hear like Travolta be like, and then all of a sudden it just kind of like when you watch like, you know, Iron Chef and Morimoto's on there, and you just hear like the translation guy just fade in.
Yeah.
Like, he almost just fades into his own thing, like where, okay, now it's English now, so we don't have to put subtitles on, but just know he's speaking a different language, and it's done so badly.
Yeah. Yeah. But the only problem is, like, that doesn't explain why, you know, Carlo goes from talking normally to doing, you know, animal barks.
I think the idea is that
middle
maybe
of
that's how he actually is communicating, but like,
no, I think that's just kind of like, that's some animalistic shit because he's lived on the land, and like he's probably seen howler monkeys in reality, and it's like, oh, that's a scary thing I can do to kind of toughen myself up. Like, that's kind of where I've always seen it. But, you know, Carlo is kind of a weird character in this, and, you know, everyone's in this movie is a weird character in this, and I don't want to spend too much time on it because there's so much to unpack with this one. I would like to talk a little bit about the plot because it's important. But the point is just that Carlo is kind of the suicide guy at the end, ends up blowing up the dome that kills everybody. It's a fucking mess. So with that said, let's dive a little bit into the plot. Yeah. So as we said, it's the year 3000. Cyclos have taken over Earth. They're mainly looking at Earth because they love gold. This again, why I'm like, this is Wall Street in fucking space. Like, I love gold. Or Goldfinger, you know, like yeah.
I conquered Earth in 9 minutes. Isn't that weird?
Isn't that weird? I forgot he was in Austin Powers Gold.
Yeah, that's right at the end of the movie. He's gold member.
Oh my god. Yeah, but they love gold for some reason. Like, it's again, I'm not going to try to go too deep into this. They love gold. Earth has a lot of gold, so that's why they conquered it. Okay. Man has been devolved into basically like, you know, caveman type people. You've got tribes all over the place. They believe that there are monsters, but they've never actually seen them. Barry Pepper is the only person who like questions that whole thing. So it's supposed to establish that he is like the one man who doesn't fit in. He's a little bit more intelligent than everybody else. Okay. I'll buy that.
Sure.
Yeah. And he goes out abandoning his girlfriend, Chrissy, we think. Just female number one. Who's
generic pretty lady.
Generic pretty lady with a perm in post-apocalyptic Earth.
They all have fabulous
They
teeth,
all
too,
look great.
Yeah.
Like, amazing. You know, right?
Good bone structure.
Yeah. Almost like
Flawless
it was made in
skin.
Hollywood. And he discovers Carlo and his band of goofy people. I don't think that there would be a fat man in the apocalypse, by the way. Like there's a overweight man in this movie. And I'm
he
just
knows
like,
where all the best rats are.
Yeah, but seriously, like, do you think that there would be overweight people if 1,000 years had passed and you had to rely on your own cunning to survive? Because I don't believe there would be.
Yeah, no.
I mean, there's no fast food at that point. I mean, that lasts maybe what? Maybe like a year to 2 years, maybe?
Welcome to Rat Donald's.
Yeah, welcome to Rat Donald's. But what's funny is just like after he meets his gang of people, the Cyclos attack, we get shot by the worst CGI laser blast I've ever seen. Like seriously, worst CGI laser blast. It's literally just like a little circle, and then it turns into like a giant reverberating circle, and that's it. That's it. You can make this shit in After Effects in like an afternoon, but they just were like, you know what, we're gonna cheap out on this.
Their guns, by the way, ignoring the fact that they're completely plastic and like and don't make any sense. They clearly have never invented a gun that can be fired repeatedly. I thought they thought man was like stupid,
Yeah, why do they have guns that only can do like one shot? Wouldn't you think you'd have like an automatic?
Yeah,
or semi-automatic laser gun? Like maybe. I don't know. But point is, we encounter Turl, we encounter Kerr. Johnny Goodboy tries to escape like twice, and I'm surprised he's not killed. Because you would think that these superior aliens would be like, oh, that's someone who has more will than everybody else. Maybe I should just cut my losses and kill them. But as I mentioned, these are the worst space villains ever.
Yeah.
So
there's no logical reason they don't.
There's even a scene where Turl gives Johnny Goodboy a fucking gun after he's killed one of his own. Gives him a gun. Says, here, have a gun. I don't believe you actually did it. And I'll be damned. He kills another person. So he's killed 2 aliens. No one's ever done that, by the way. Got to bring this up here. The history of this movie, no one's killed an alien. This is the first guy who's done it. Okay?
Yeah.
So you give him a gun, and there you go. Okay? So that's again, establishing the worst villains. Problem is, Turl might have had sex with the senator of Cyclo's daughter. That's inferred. Okay. Some shenanigans ensued. Because of that, Turl is told he's going to be on Earth for like 50 cycles. We mentioned that already. Turl doesn't like that because he hates being on Earth. He wants to rule galaxies. Okay. But
he wants to rule the
galaxies. And so he decides that what he's going to do is he's going to mine more gold and basically pay his way into getting off the planet. Okay, but he can't do that because the only only section of gold that hasn't been mined yet is in a radioactive area of the planet. And it turns out, conveniently, that radiation can blow up the breath and air that Cyclos breathe. Isn't that convenient there?
Yeah, like their planet's like environment is made of farts. Like, yes. I guess like you set off a nuke and
it spreads everywhere. Which there's a lot I could think on that. Like, okay, why wasn't that something that they tried first? Like, if I'm I'm not saying I'm the president because obviously our current president's a moron. But let's say you had an intelligent president and you saw aliens were coming. What's the first thing you think you would actually try to do if you saw that they were, I don't know, violent and hostile?
Nuke 'em.
And wouldn't that be the thing that like kills them all right off the bat? Nuking them?
Yeah. Wow, that was quick.
Wow, that was quick. Less than 9 minutes.
Wait, their breathing apparatuses are major inconsistent in this movie.
Oh yeah, it makes
like,
no sense. Like, you can breathe through your mouth too, right? Like,
yeah. Well, they'll sometimes be on the planet and just take them off.
Yes,
and I'm like, wait, did you not need that at all? Or
yeah, it makes no sense with like this whole movie. So it can't mine that gold, so they decide to train Johnny Goodboy with the learning machine and give him a crew to mine the gold. Only problem is Johnny Goodboy, he learns a little bit too much. and decides that he's going to revolt. And his plan is to use Fort Knox, give the gold to the Cyclos, which, again, you would think that they would have known that America has a whole repository of gold right there.
Yeah.
In the 1,000 years.
How did they miss that?
In that 1,000 years, you would have thought that would have been there for them to see.
They
but
should have
no.
gone to New York City. New York City has twice the gold of Fort Knox.
But still, like,
Yeah.
you didn't research this? You have a fucking learning machine. So anyway, again, worst supervillains ever. Anyway, he is able to convince John Travolta that they did, smelt the gold down into bars. You would need some kind of smelting apparatus to do that, but okay, movie. And he uses his superior knowledge that he's gained from the learning machine. Like, we're talking about Euclidean geometry and molecular biology, all from a fucking learning machine, to devise a plan to revolt and destroy the Cyclos. It's convoluted as all fuck. It makes no sense. He does it in the course of a week. Okay? He trains savages, okay, to fly Harrier jets and trains them to battle the Cyclones.
They do like the test flight machine for like 4 days.
That would not be working, by the way. All of the stuff that they found, because at one point they find, I think it's Fort Hood, and they discover all these Harrier jets. They discover working flight simulator. This is 1,000 years, folks. 1,000 years have passed since any of this stuff was working. Okay?
Yeah. I went to, when the last time I visited my mom's, I found my Game Gear in my closet, and I took the battery thing off, and it was
corroded.
this corroded nightmare. Yeah. That's like 15 years.
Yeah. Yeah. But we're talking 1,000 years. None of that would be functional at all. Okay? Nothing would be functional at all. There's no power sources for it. You think batteries are going to be working at that point? No. You would need to have power to it. So either way, it's a bullshit plot device.
L. Ron Hubbard, you bojo.
Yeah.
You need power.
You need power. But he trains these savages to fly jets. They take down...
That really pissed me off, by the way. Like,
really?
You know how many years you have to be in the Air Force before they even consider letting you fly?
They had 3 days.
They did it in like 3 days.
3 days.
Not knowing anything, except what the simulator taught them.
What? And like, in reality, the minute they got into it, they'd probably explode.
Yeah.
Okay, Carlo.
Yeah, if you don't drive your car for like 2 weeks, sometimes it doesn't start.
Yeah.
It's been 1,000 years of these Harrier jets.
Yeah. But like, they would just explode. Or just the fact that they'd be like, oh, what's this big red button? I'll push that. Boom. Missile goes off. They're dead. Okay. But the point is that they execute their plan. They, again, worst supervillains ever. It almost goes belly up because what was supposed to happen was Carlo was supposed to fire a missile and blow up the dome, because the dome contains their air, the Cyclo's air. And if you get rid of that, then they'll not be able to breathe. Problem though is that the missile doesn't go off, and so he crashes into the dome, and he decides he's gonna blow up his own. He's gonna sacrifice himself.
I was waiting for Randy Quaid to show up. Like,
yeah,
sir, I'm late, sir.
Yeah. So he blows himself up. The dome goes down. And now this is the same time. Okay, so here's 2 plans. You're going to defeat them on Earth. You're also going to blow up their planet. Okay. Again, I don't know why they didn't do this 1,000 years prior. So what ends up happening is there, in Johnny Goodboy's kind of army, there is Carlo, and then there's kind of like this meek guy. I don't even know his name. I think it's Mickey. Do you know?
Yeah, like the trembling angry man. Who's
the trembling angry
off.
man.
Yeah.
Okay, he's just kind of like the meek guy who's just there, and he ends up being the one to sacrifice himself. He carries a dirty bomb to the Cyclo homeworld because they have transporters and shit. Okay, and he detonates it and it blows up the planet. Okay, again,
you didn't even get a cool one-liner. Like, I think
No,
about
he did.
Total Recall with the fat lady head, like, you're in for a surprise, or
Yeah.
Randy Quaid in Independence Day. You should have had like a one-liner.
he should have just said piece of cake. Like if I was directing this film, I would have been like, "You're gonna say piece of cake.
Take a deep breath.
This bud's for you." Yeah. So he blows up the planet. Kerr ends up deciding to switch sides and stay with Johnny Goodboy. Turl is imprisoned in Fort Knox with all of his fucking gold, and that's the movie, folks.
Yeah. And so, and as a point of reference, this is apparently only the first half of the book, because I think Travolta wanted like a Harry Potter like franchise with this fucking,
Yeah, I was reading that the sequel to this was going to basically involve like Barry Pepper rebuilding Earth and just shenanigans ensuing.
By the way, Travolta, like his character is completely okay with his entire planet and everyone he's ever known being decimated. Like he got over that like Princess Leia style,
Yeah. I mean, he didn't really like them a whole lot. I mean, he did want to get off of Earth, but I mean, he did really like them.
Yeah.
So.
But still, I mean, I don't know. It's kind of devastating to some degree, isn't it? But he's just like, whatever. I'm just more annoyed by the fact that I'm imprisoned.
Yeah. The one thing, though, that I did want to mention, and I didn't mention this when we were talking about the behind-the-scenes stuff, is that this movie, and I didn't really know this until I was doing research on this. So the Church of Scientology, and this is stuff that has been documented, has said that they were not involved in the making of this movie. Okay? They said they're not. Okay? That this was science fiction. It had nothing to do with them. Turns out, though, that might not be accurate, because there have been reports, and I'll link these interviews to former members of the Church of Scientology who have said that the president at the time of the Church of Scientology was on set, was seeing dailies, and was kind of pushing how the production was going on.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, like, when for promotion of this movie, John Travolta went around to bookstores and signed copies of L. Ron Hubbard's Battlefield Earth book. Yeah. And like Frank Darabont doesn't go around with copies of, Rita Hayworth and the Shawshank Redemption.
No.
Because he did fucking write it. Like,
it's unusual.
It's a propaganda mission, right? Because like the idea of pushing L. Ron Hubbard science fiction stories is that maybe people then will want to read Dianetics and they'll get into Scientology. It's a recruitment film.
Yeah. And again, like, we want to be careful with this. This is stuff that is documented. Okay. This is not our opinion of this. This is documented stuff that we've seen. This actually did happen. And what's interesting is when the film actually was being made, and the president of the Church of Scientology was seeing the dailies, he was saying, "Oh my God, this is going to be an amazing movie." And then as soon as it came out, this is according to the sources, who were former members. There's literally a YouTube video on this, who, they said as soon as it came out that, he distanced himself entirely. Tom Cruise even said, "What the hell did you do with Battlefield Earth? That's horrible. Who gave that okay?" And they threw it all under the bus to Travolta. They threw him
Max Shrek style. As soon as like I played this Ticket City, like A Heart from Hell came on, they're like, "See ya."
No, but it's insane. It is truly insane how this movie came about. It's insane the behind the scenes of it. I don't think that there will ever be another movie like this that stinks that bad. I really don't. Like maybe Geely might get close, but I don't even think Geely is this bad.
I think like budget comparatively, like
Cutthroat Island.
You think like, a movie with Ben Affleck, Jennifer Lopez is like they had $100 million. Like no, most movies don't. Like I don't. Geely probably had like a quarter of the budget.
That's what I'm saying. Maybe Cutthroat Island might be one of them. Yeah. Like that Catwoman maybe, but still, like there's just so much weirdness with this film. The whole behind the scenes drama is honestly more interesting than the movie itself.
That happens a lot, like with terrible movies. Like the story behind them is sometimes to be 10 times more interesting.
Yeah. So Final thoughts on Battlefield Earth before we wrap this up, John?
I will say this with, there's good, bad, and bad, bad. So there's like movies that like, hey, that's a really bad movie. Like, oh, should I watch it? Like, yeah, it's hilarious. You got to check it out. Or sometimes it'd be like, no, you'll suffer. It's not like the fun type of bad. Don't do it. Like without Travolta, I think this movie's just bad. But with him in it, it's something you have to experience this at least once in your life. And
I'd say that this would be a fantastic drinking movie.
Oh yeah, you got to have a couple of cocktails.
I think the only way that you can really enjoy this film is if you are with a bunch of friends. I mean, obviously you can't do that right now, but in the future, hopefully, if you Zoom this movie, or hopefully in the future, you can party with your friends, sit down, watch this film, drink, and literally like rip the shit out of it. That is the only way that you can really get any joy out of this film, is by doing that. If you don't do that, you will just be depressed after watching it. I've seen people who've been like, I can't get through this whole movie. And I can understand that. I really can. I've seen this movie when I was younger. I saw it again for the review. But it's hard. It's a hard film to watch because of how bad it is.
It's an ugly movie too. We mentioned it earlier, but just like the camera work, the color grading, like the sets, like it's ugly as fuck.
It really is. It really is. But my final thoughts are really just, watch this movie with your buddies. But honestly, the behind the scenes stuff of this is really interesting, and it gives you kind of a window into how movies actually do get made, and their utter failures sometimes. But yeah, that's my final thoughts on Battlefield Earth. Probably the worst big budget film of all time.
Yeah, I
think that's the worst big budget film of all time. Yeah. Cool. Well, John, where can they find you at on the Twitter machine?
You can find me at RatBrain. No. Isn't rat your favorite food? Eat.
Don't you like food?
At the Unreal J Wolves.
You can find me at Fort Knox, hanging out with Turl. Or at Brian Coddington, or also run the Psycho Show page. Be sure to like us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter at Psycho Show. You can also find us on the Epicast Network at epicastnetwork.com. If you have a favorite movie or question you want to throw away, or you too have been scarred by watching Battlefield Earth, you need someone to talk to, you can contact us at psychoshow.com. Be sure to subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts and iTunes, and we will see you next time.
Insert John Travolta line here.
And
Epicast.